Welcome to Awakened Exchanges. I'm your host, Jay Rich, and this is the first episode of what I hope will be a long run. However, before we get to the first guest, in the next episode, I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of who I am and why you should care about this podcast at all. Hopefully, this is going to give you a reason to come back and engage in the exchange. With that in mind, here's a little bit of who we are and what we're trying to do here at Awakened Exchanges. First off, hopefully my voice isn't sounding as strained as it feels, but we're sitting through what are likely to be the worst and most deadly fires in Oregon history. The smoke has been thick for days, and it doesn't help that my day job is driving around to places in various levels of evacuation order. That said, I hope you don't take the awakened in our name too seriously. I am by no means claiming to be woke. I am just trying to facilitate open and honest exchanges with our fellow human beings. I do like to think that I'm alert to a lot of the injustices in our society, but also that some people blow things out of proportion. I also disagree with how some people respond to those injustices, even though I do think there needs to be a response. With that in mind, why can't we at least discuss those situations and what we can do about them? Now, the first concept for this script actually started just before COVID changed the world, and then all of a sudden George Floyd's murder set it on fire. We're now sitting through more than 100 days of protests here in Portland. As I record this, it seems like the response has definitely begun. That said, we at Awakened Exchanges are not social justice warriors. We're just here trying to communicate with other people. We want to start conversations and get the word out on subjects that need more awareness. Hopefully we can help awaken some of us from this complacent lifestyle we've been living in. After all, open is human nature. Just look at how children actually try and share before they could even speak. It's only as we grow up that we get hurt and learn to close ourselves off. We try and protect ourselves from that inevitable pain that comes with this life. I might take some flack for this, but while I truly do believe that Black Lives Matter, I also believe that all lives matter. Sadly, some in the Republican Party have people using that phrase when what they're really trying to say is white lives matter. That message should have been retired long before MLK was martyred for his beliefs. We need to remember that MLK was starting to speak up not just about the black lives in our communities, but about the poor lives in our country as well. And that's a message we can't let slide this time around. Until those same Republicans pony up and give us a real universal healthcare system, until they provide us a universal basic income so we can stabilize the rampant poverty in our society, until they can prove that they actually care about every race, sex, gender, and in between, then no one should be saying the phrase, all lives matter. I wish we had a better name for this movement, and I think that it needs to define itself better so it can keep growing. But until then, please remember that Black Lives Matter and all lives matter. So let's get it right for once. Let's not throw in the towel just yet. We all deserve equal rights. I don't know what the solution is, but let's figure it out by coming together and not by starting another civil war. That was a lot so I just can't let it go any further without emphasizing that we're actually here to have a little bit of fun too. I tend to get a bit serious, but I also mean it in good humor. I was inspired to be creative long ago by one of the original Podfathers himself, Kevin Smith. You can probably see some memorabilia back here. This is just kind of some of my inspiration stuff. Forgive it, but it is what it is. I actually saw Mallrats before I saw Clerks, but I was 14, so what do you expect? I quickly followed it up with Clerks and then Chasing Amy, but who am I kidding? I was a fan as soon as I saw Stan the Man Lee showing up halfway through Mallrats. Back then, I was just a smart kid that got lucky to work with a few industry professionals. Special shout out to Ray Crissing for getting me into inking, and David Brewer for fostering that creative spark and giving me the confidence to learn some penciling myself. I was a voracious reader and dreamer that wanted to tell meaningful stories to people for most of my life. I didn't do much with my bachelor's degree despite its emphasis in screenwriting, but it did add a facet to my skill set that has served me well over the years. We will most definitely talk movies, music, UFOs, pop culture, but no topic is off limits here. Why not try to start conversations on topics that we're all interested in, but no one is really addressing? Let's take universal basic income, for example. Why don't those multi-billion-dollar tech companies that are all making their money off of us actually pay for the right to use our data? That's where their money's coming from. For $2,500 a month, most people can squeeze out a fair amount of life in this country. Let's see, that's $30,000 a year per person. That will allow everyone the freedom to stop stressing. Okay, they'll be able to freely spend in the economy and participate in this wonderful country that is America. Don't kid yourself, all right? Nobody should be a slave to a paycheck. The entire economy is going to be upside down after COVID, and we're going to have to find another way. Maybe this could be the start. Who knows? From there, we could end up talking about multiverse theory or holographic universe hypotheses. Or how about the possibility that we're all living in a collapsing field of potential realities and there could be who knows how many alternate realities out there. What if all these timelines are coexisting within the same space-time? Or what if we're actually living in a simulation? What if it's only the shared moments that need to be accounted for by the system as a whole, and therefore everyone's perception is an actual reality? Maybe even multiple realities. Maybe those individual realities can only get reconciled into one when each individual embraces themselves and learns to get past their own fears and doubts. Or maybe that's a bit heavy for the first few minutes of a new podcast, right? But we all know there are plenty of heavy things in this world. And when times are tough, that's when we need to remember the good times the most. We need those good, lighthearted, loving kinds of things in our lives so that we can remember why we're here in the first place. This is a world of connections, and we can't let those connections atrophy, or else we're going to breed fear and hate. I hope that some of the conversations we have on here help to bridge some perspectives and make even the heavy things a little bit lighter. And like Neale Donald Walsch wished to do with his books, maybe this podcast can help in some small, incremental way to move humanity away from the intolerance, selfishness, anger, and violence that seem to permeate so much of everyday life.